Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Ryan. How you doing?
Oh, we went off at the same time there, and I let you go. I'm doing very well. I'm feeling mournful. We lost a brother in arms. Pags. Can we give it up for Pags, everybody? Rachel? R.I.P. Pags. The P in R.I.P. stands for Pags. Rest in Pags. But how are you?
Confused. Because you told me that I've watched this before.
Whoa.
And I have zero recollection of it.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
I'm confused.
We'll get there. So let's kind of break down things for those not fully aware or in the know of things. We are going to be discussing the 1995, I want to say this started?
Yeah. Like
TV
4 or 5, I think, is when it came out.
Series Space Above and Beyond, a short-lived sci-fi series on Fox, which says it all, doesn't it? Created by Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who were a creative team, a writing team on The X-Files. They did very well there, so that they then got to propel to a different direction and got to create their own show, and this was that show. It survived for 1 season and was murdered by Fox, and then they went back to X-Files, and then they went on to Millennium, and they went on to do many things, and we thought, hey, we always bring up Space Above and Beyond.
Ryan does.
We always bring it up.
Ryan does.
I always say to Rachel, could you stop bringing up Space Above and Beyond when we talk about Discovery and Babylon 5, but Rachel always keeps bringing it up, and then I bring it up. But no, in all seriousness, we are going to be doing something a bit different to the other shows where I have seen Space Above and Beyond before, and Rachel, you have not seen the series before.
No.
So
apparently I have seen the pilot.
So I grew up with Space Above and Beyond in a minor capacity. We had some of the episodes recorded off the televisions.
On VHS.
Yes, and there's one in specific that I've seen many times, but we'll get there when we get there. But I only saw a handful growing up, and I liked what I saw, and then eventually we got a copy of the full season, and I watched it once all the way through, and I liked it. I thought it was interesting. It stuck with me. And then I've watched it a second time since then when we got together at some point. I sat down with you. We watched the pilot episode, which we're going to be discussing here today, called Pilot. And it is obviously a 90-minute feature thing. In some areas, I can't remember, it's like broken up into 2 parts sometimes. Sometimes it's just the one thing.
The disc says part 1 and part 2.
It's like Encounter at Farpoint, where you have it broken up into 2 parts, rather than The Gathering, which from Babylon 5, which is just one thing.
Yeah, it's like,
but it's
not
still
officially a TV movie, but it could very easily be aired.
Yeah, it probably aired as just one, but they can break it up into 2 for syndicate, like for TV airing later. But we watched it together at some point, that first episode, and you weren't really interested. This was before I had gotten you into B5, before we had really gotten heavy into
you tried
Trek.
Space and Above and Beyond before you tried B5.
Because I had just gotten it. So I was like, hey, this is an excuse to watch something together. And you were like, nah, I'm all right. So I watched this on my own back in 2012, 2013. And it was good. I enjoyed it, and it stuck with me a bit. But this is going to be an interesting kind of way of going through a series where I've watched it before, you haven't, and Space Above and Beyond is still a little foggy to me. There's some things that I don't fully remember. There are some details of characters and stories and production and all of that that are going to be new to me on this watch, even though I have seen it twice before. So let's just kind of get into this. Rachel, we watched the pilot episode, Cold Pilot. What does the DVD description have to say about this? That's right, we have the DVD of this. Now, this is available in very few locations. This had to be gotten from the UK if we wanted the pilot and the series.
Yes.
You can get the series on its own without the pilot, or you can get the pilot without... It's just mind-boggling in the physical realm.
It was like less than 3 sellers in the UK on eBay.
Right, and it's apparently, it's obviously available digitally in a few places. Some people have uploaded the entirety of the series to YouTube, whether that stays around for who knows how long, because these things always get taken down eventually. It's a Fox show, so technically it should be on Disney Plus at some point, but I doubt it ever will be. But we have the DVD, so what does it have to say about Pilot?
When an Earth outpost 18 light years away is destroyed by an unknown alien force, a group of young United States Marine Corps aviators find themselves on the front lines of an intergalactic battle in an attempt to save their home planet. Interesting.
So, Yum Yum and Beyond is the title for us. I was arguing, like, do we call it just Yum, space above and beyond? Where do we put the Yum and the Yum Yums? Because obviously we're looking at this through the Yum Yum prism, where we got that iconic line.
Prison. Yeah,
Prison, yeah. Star Trek Discovery gave us the beautiful line, Yum Yum. We all know it. That's why we're all here. We don't actually want to hear any new takes on an old sci-fi classic. We just want to know all about Yum Yum from Star Trek Discovery, where we saw that moment, we named ourselves after it, we look at every episode and rate it, Yum meaning bad, Yum Yum being good. And I just wanted to clarify that because I feel like we don't bring it up enough. I think
Once
we
every
could bring
episode isn't enough. Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we let it slip, and we could be bringing it up more. But, Rachel.
Yes.
This is your second watch of the pilot. You don't remember the first time.
You tell me so. And there were a few shots where I was like, maybe I've seen this before. Right. But maybe I just watched the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But you distinctly remember sitting down with me at your parents' house and us watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not.
Right. Well, now you just sat down. Do you remember it from just sitting down and watching it just a moment ago?
Mostly.
What did you think? Brief overview.
Some interesting ideas. Very clunky in parts. Did not need to be 90 minutes. And it is very much visibly struggling to find its identity. There are parts of this where it's like, yeah, this is the show. They know what they're doing. Like, they're just doing the thing. And then there's parts where they're like, we're doing a thing. Are you noticing that we're doing a thing? We're setting up a thing here.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't consistently have that ease of delivery of like, this is just the world. So it's like they didn't have the confidence to just be. Right. It's like they know what the identity of the show is, but they're struggling to convey that as effectively, consistently.
But what is this kind of tug of war? Like, what are some examples for you that you can kind of bring to us? Because I can understand what you're saying, but I need to hear, like, in the content of what we've got. What are some key points of what you're talking about here?
So some parts of it feel overly labored is, I think, maybe a better way to phrase what I mean. So the lovers torn apart storyline, I was like, this is too much and too little at the same time.
Mm.
I don't buy their relationship. I don't care about it. Because as soon as I saw them together, I was like, oh, well, they're going to be split up because this is a fucking pilot.
I thought she was going to die.
Well, no, they string that out. And I'm like...
Well, that's what pushes him.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Because when I think of this, nothing is more desirable than the hope of watching that last day when the sun flickers out, with you beside me. We'll sit alone on a dark chunk of ice at the top of the world, and the stars above, beyond, and between us will never shine brighter as we drift away into space.
There are many, many successful and subtle moments of them giving world building and lore and background of characters that do hit, but you pair them next to the times where they bluntly hit you over the head with the information, such as, for instance, I really loved the scene where the two lovers are the couple that we follow at the beginning of this are told that they aren't going to be allowed to come on the mission together. Somebody has to stay behind, all of that. And there's this discussion about why do we have to suffer for the choices of generations before us? And that was really well done. There was nice, quiet moments of telling us that this is a show where we are going to follow characters who are going to be suffering the ramification of past generations. And that violence of the past, wars of the past, bigotry of the past still ripple into today. Yes. And there are so many moments of brilliance with that idea and theme being explored. But then you follow it up, or you have many times throughout it, that said super explicitly, loudly, and clumsily that it kind of makes it a blur in general of just like, yeah, I get it. And you kind of forget how there were those moments of subtle world building because you've just been smashed in the face with it so much.
Yeah, and there was a moment in that scene in particular where I was like, ooh, I really like that idea of when he's just like, yeah, I support their rights, but not at the cost of my own.
Right.
And I was like, yes, that type of bigotry is very interesting to explore because it's way more nuanced and more complicated and
wormy,
interesting to explore than somebody who's like, oh, I fucking hate your species or whatever it is. Oh, I hate all of you. Like, I was like, okay, I want more of that.
My dynamic with the pilot this time round was I enjoyed it quite a lot. I was walking in, dragging my feet, honestly, because I remember the pilot being the most boring thing out of the entire run of the show. And
as they often are.
As they often are. And we still have, doing Babylon 5, The Gathering, the pilot movie there is boring and bad, and it has never really
like
proved.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and Twin Peaks has a great pilot, but I was dragging my feet going, okay, this is going to be slow, plodding, dull. I remembered that they didn't do much character work of interest to me, and it was a lot of setting up the war and military and military war and all of that.
It's very heavy with telling you. And then there's moments of showing and you're like, oh, maybe it can be like this. And then it defaults back.
Well, that's where I'm at, where I actually was surprised with how much character work was given, how much setup and exploration of the ensemble we have. I still have a problem with it, though, which is it is too long. Where there's a good, let's be generous and say, hour-long episode here, and there's an extra 30 minutes on top.
I think that's too generous. I think they had probably a good idea for a 40-minute episode.
If they want to do what they did, which is have the opening be how our characters become who they are, then them becoming the heroes of the day, and the war is now fully established, I think an hour-long start is perfectly fine, and I think there's material here, and you can rework it, but that's the thing. It is just too long, because they have to pad it out, so they just repeat scenes, they repeat information, they repeat moments, and whatever nice little character things we do have become
Okay.
like they become
I want to do a
screwed up and
specific example of
they
that.
become screwed up and twisted because they are just playing the same note over and over. You brought up Nathan West's bigotry towards tanks, that brilliant, nice, well, not nice, but like that characterful insight moment of the guy who's all for rights except for when they intrude upon his rights, and then he's bigoted. They play that
it's
up.
an inconvenience to me. Oh, then they don't need that. They don't need that.
Played great in that scene, but then once you get into what it is like to have Nathan West paired up with a tank, you keep playing that note over and over and over again, and it isn't dynamic. It isn't fluid. It is just making you bored and hate both Nathan West and Cooper Hawkes, because both of them are assholes, and there's a way to play up having asshole characters, which in the, like, sometimes in this pilot, they do that really, really well. But again, because it's so long, it just outstays its welcome so many times.
Yeah. I was reminded of Jane from Firefly's pilot.
Right. Oh, there's another one. The Firefly pilot is a mess as well to me.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got so many different tones going on.
The example that popped to my mind when you were saying that is we get that really, really nice, minimalistic, atmospheric flashback scene of Shane in her old abandoned house, remembering the death of her parents.
Right, and the sister biting the hand.
Yep. And then we get her telling that story to Hawks.
You need one or the other. And the argument to be made is you have both because one gives context to the other.
Oh, I didn't even think that far. I was like, oh, that's clearly from part one and this is from part two.
The sad thing is, which do you want out of the two?
I want the first one.
See, I want the second one because the acting was absolutely beautiful there, and it was a nice moment of bonding between these two characters and an awkward
I did like
too.
the end of that scene.
Where he kisses her.
Yeah.
Because he's
like, what the fuck, dude?
And he's like, I won't be here for long. It's like, okay, man. Yeah, like,
you don't know what to do when somebody reaches out to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I find that interesting, but I liked the atmosphere of the first one, even though it was very melodramatic.
No, I mean, it wasn't. It was kids watching their parents get shot to death. I don't know if it was that melodramatic. It was pretty raw.
Yeah, like, it's just that...
She stopped her from screaming.
Yeah.
And now she has a scar on her hand.
Melodramatic is the wrong word.
Heightened.
It's just so full of tropes.
Right.
It's like, it's raining. It's quiet. She's alone.
It's a night.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's night. The music that's chosen.
Take a drink every time somebody jumps a fence that says you're not allowed in here. There's a lot of jumping fences or breaking through fences of areas that you're not allowed to be in, and that was one of them. I would love to talk about... Let's talk about the opening of the pilot, which is the Vesta colony, and we get a speech that is whatever faults this has as a pilot.
Let's set up the show!
Whatever faults this has as a pilot, the speech at the beginning is excellent at telling you so much about what the show is going to be.
It gets you up to speed fast.
But not in a way where it feels like clunky exposition.
Not whiplash.
No, what I mean is it sets it up beautifully because you have these humans that have made this colony and they're very, yay, us, we did it! And you have this speech from this from this guy, and he's just so, he's banging his chest type of deal, like,
we have faith.
We have faith, and people doubt us and think that we're fortune hunters and that we're bad people and that we're running away from the problems of Earth, but we're not. We're here because we have faith. Faith that we can survive. Faith that things can work out. And you have the flag flying up and it's blowing in the wind, that real...
And that we are alone in the universe.
Yes.
It's like, okay, how long until that's wrong? It did come faster than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting a little more of, like, that being set up and then us setting up our characters on Earth and then going back to Vega. But it's like they get fucked up.
No, they're dead.
They get fucked up right away. And I was like, okay. Bold. I like this.
What I love about that speech is the fact that it tells you so much without directly saying it out loud. There is world building is the thing we keep using a lot, where it's telling you that Earth is
implications.
It's telling you that Earth is falling apart, that Earth is this cesspool
without you seeing it at all.
And you have these people who are running away to the stars and they're just picking planets and they're going here and they're colonizing. And it's, again, the colonialist aspect of it. And they have faith that everything will work out because we are the best. We are going to make it. We have put our flag in the ground and
We've made it this far.
And you have the flag blowing in the wind, and it's very reminiscent of a lot of imagery in American media, especially World War II films. And then you have the aliens attack them and just destroy them easily without a care in the world, and you have the flag burning. And it is just a great opener to say that humans' hubris and ego is not welcome in space, because here they are. We don't know the full context of anything. Like, are these aliens just assholes, or is this their territory? Who knows? Is this like the Gorn in Star Trek, the original series? And we don't know, but you do get that sense from that opening speech that it is that, not to be too...
Hubris?
Yeah, not to be dismissive, but that kind of American-centric kind of, we are the best in the world and everything that we do...
Manifest destiny?
The manifest destiny. And then they just get obliterated and told, no, you're not. Get the fuck out of our space. Because every single time in this pilot, humans are entering somewhere new, somewhere different, a new planet. They just get welcomed with violence and with apathy and just with the vacuum of space. And I adore that. That is great, because it tells you in the opening what the show's going to be. We're going to explore that. We're going to explore what is the human condition, and do we take it to space? Do we change? Are we welcome? Are we actually capable? Or is it just that they're evil aliens and we have to stop the evil aliens? Is this just simply, it is a war thing where it's just like we have good guys and we have bad guys? But to me, the opening speech tells you that the humans aren't necessarily good guys. They're not innocent.
No.
And then we come to Earth, and we are without a doubt shown that humanity is just as fucked up as it is today when it was made. And
it really has that vibe that a lot of US things in the 90s have for me, which is LA riots.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about the LA riots?
Did you know about them? I taught you them now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Space Above and Beyond pilot episode.
Like the grungy cities, and I always think of LA being the example, even though
we have Detroit.
Detroit is the comparison now, but you also have New York thrown in there as well.
But what did you think about the general opening and the setting of the stage?
I was like, this is distinctive. And effective. That's the main thing that I was left with.
After 150 years of calling out, the silence of the universe assures us that life is unique. We are alone. You and I are among the first to bring life to the stars, to this planet, the farthest any human has ever ventured. I know there are those at home who say that we are here only as a status symbol. Others say that we are fortune hunters, or that we're running away. But I know that we're here because of faith. Faith in each other, in a better world. The rocket fuel that brought us here can be burnt away, but our belief in ourselves, in one another, in the future, never can be, never will be.
So let's kind of run through the characters and what we thought of them and what their deal is here. So let's work our way through the more insignificant players upwards. So we have Pags, the legendary Pags, who is introduced in a way where you know he's going to die.
Absolutely.
Because he's nice.
You tried to fool me.
Because he's nice. Everybody likes Pags. He's
really eager.
He's not a bigot. He's like one of the few people who isn't bigoted in the show. So you have that. So you're like, oh, he's going to die. And I didn't mind Pags. I thought he was actually all right. I actually wouldn't have minded him sticking around a little longer. Like, it does work in that capacity. Like, yes, you know he's going to die because this is the trope. This is how these shows and stories operate. They have to have somebody die to give the gravitas and weight of the fight.
And also to help
the heroes
push the team together more.
So I didn't mind him, but you knew. You smelt blood in the water from his first scene. He's like, I'm Pags.
Before he said his name. Because you know what tipped me off? It was the lack of bigotry. It was the fact that he was hitting on a black woman.
Really?
Yep.
What, you think this universe is the type of show where they kill people who would do that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go.
Not because they do that, but because it was like, he's just being openly nice. He's turning around. He's making an effort to be nice and caring. And he's doing that over what the audience, particularly in the 90s, would see as a bridge. Because it's like he's being nice, but also like a little bit flirty.
Ah, he was horny, so he must die.
Yes. So there's that too. And it's like, okay, he dead.
And in a show, that is obviously making statements about bigotry, racism, hatred. Again, I can see the thought process there. I just saw he was dead because he was just nice to Cooper, so that means he's dead. So we have Pags. He does die. He motivates the heroes to become a tighter unit, and that's his purpose. There's Pags. Then we have, let's go to Vanessa, who we are just talking about. The sad thing about Vanessa is she's given nothing to do in this pilot. Yet the little that we get from her, I like her. I liked her in the intro scene with Pags. I liked her at the boot camp where she's like telling us and the drill sergeant about how she lacks direction and she needs to find a purpose. And she's a very good, like the actress is doing a marvelous.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I found her performance more interesting because she's not given basically any character stuff. Like, when you were listing that off, I was like, oh yeah, they do all of those things, but I'd forgotten.
Because it's so sparse.
Like, yeah.
She has a bubbly attitude. She's kind and sweet-natured and naive. You get all of that from her here, but it is probably, let's be nice and generous and say 2 minutes of screen time in the 90-minute pilot where this isn't a spoiler. She's one of the main characters of the show.
But she didn't feel safe to me.
Right.
So, like, you kept on being like, what about Vanessa? And I was like, oh, she doesn't seem like she's part of the main cast to me. The main cast to me was West, Shane, and Cooper.
Right.
It was those three that I was like, they're definitely not going to die. I was like, Pags is definitely going to die. But on this second mission, maybe it'll be Vanessa.
Well, Vanessa's one of the main cast, so you'll see her around.
Yeah, I was less concerned about them killing her off after, in my eyes, she kills the alien.
Right. Do you want to discuss that moment with her? Because that's like her big moment.
Yeah. She's like, it's a basic need. Every type of life needs water, and then she puts water into its gills.
Because they've captured one of the aliens at this point.
On Mars.
After a little shootout, and they killed Pags. And they're arguing whether they should kill it or not, or give it water, or what to do.
Yep, and the two people that are kind of fighting for leadership of the squadron just leave the room. And then Vanessa's like, I'm going to give it water.
Because all life needs water is the concept that we are drilled into, especially in science fiction, where it's like, water is life. Water is the thing that connects us.
But then there's some ADR. Well, it felt very ADR of them being like, I can't believe it killed itself. And I was like, no, that's not how it tracked for me.
Yeah, they shoved a thing in an orifice they don't know or understand, and then it splooged out green goo. I love that.
Oh, it looked so good.
That has got to be
so good.
The whole sequence on Mars is probably a standout for me. I love the alien design. I love the menace of them. I love just how abstract they are, but we don't get to see what they look like yet.
Okay,
and
can I tell you what my theory was for a little bit? So I thought it was going to be revealed, I guess. When they were trying to figure out what that thing was that they took off its chest.
Yeah.
And then they're connecting it to the photo. I was like, is this a photo of your family? I thought it was going to be that the aliens had turned his girlfriend into one of them.
Right.
And that it was going to be her under the thing. And then it's like a body snatchers style thing.
Well, we've still got another 20-something episodes to find out what the aliens are all about.
That specifically was going to end up being his girlfriend. And then
Right. Yeah, I just think that scene is brilliantly paced, and the arguments and the bickering in the squad is done well, because this is their first real mission. They don't really know each other that well. They're not
been on an accelerated path.
They've never gotten on, and there's no designated leader. It's just you have to work together. And so the power vacuum blows up here, and we leave these inexperienced people, and Vanessa tries to give an act of kindness, and in turn her act of kindness leads to the death of the alien. And
at least we see it that way.
That's how we see it. They see it differently, which I don't understand.
The show says different, but the way that it is presented, I'm like, no, they accidentally killed it.
Yeah, I wonder if they will play around with that as we go along or not. But Vanessa's all right. Like, they just don't give her anything to do here. She's just in it a bit. She has way more characterization to her than the next one, Wang. What did you think about Wang? The Asian guy who was going to scream real loud?
I could figure out that much. No, but I was just trying to remember what he was. Was he the one that was like, I hope they don't yell?
Yeah. He was the little nervy guy.
Yeah, and then he's the one that's made to do his battle cry.
Yep. Yeah. We got Wang. Any thoughts? Wang?
Nope.
Do you know he's a main cast member too?
Nope.
Would you have guessed?
Nope.
No? This pilot didn't help you sell that?
Nope.
Because we have 5 main cast members in that crew, which is Vanessa, Wang, Cooper Hawkes, Shane, and Nathan West. And then, obviously, we get, at the end of the pilot, their squadron commander, who is McQueen, who, I guess we can go to McQueen. He's kind of...
He has a scar.
Is that all we got from him?
This is amazing. Like, that's the most definitive thing I got from him, yeah.
Not that he's a tank?
Nah. I think of Cooper when it comes to the tanks more than McQueen.
But he's a fellow tank. That was
Yeah.
like the big thing. That's why him and Cooper have this kind of weird connection.
Yes.
They both recognize each other, whether they know each other from the past or just they as tanks can recognize other tanks or
Because I thought it
something's
was going
going
to be
on.
that, like, he saw his little thingy on the back of his neck. Because, like, you know, I guess they have a version of a belly button on the back of their neck instead of their stomach because they were...
In vitros.
Yes.
McQueen isn't given too much to do here either. He is the head of the Angry Angels, or at least is involved with the Angry Angels, if I'm not Yes, because the Angry Angels, the other best squadron in the universe, go up and fight the aliens and get their ass handed to them like motherfuckers. McQueen, although given little to do here, the actor is imposing. He leaves a presence. He does have a stance. He has a look. He has a voice. He
has that military presence.
But he isn't a jarhead.
No.
You know he's a bit wiser than that, and he's a bit more sly, is the kind of energy I got from him here. And his camaraderie and brothership with Hawks is done through just glances more than anything.
But that sort of, I don't know, almost juxtaposition is shown really well for me when he throws the table aside and then he's like, I'm going to give you advice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's genuine, heartfelt advice.
I want to be able to look into your eyes. Courage, honor, dedication, sacrifice. These are just the words they used to get you here. Now the only word that means a damn to you is life. Yours, your buddies. The one certainty in war is that in an hour, maybe 2, you'll either still be alive or you'll be dead. For the next hour, here's your best chance of staying alive.
He's no bullshit. That's his thing, because he says all of these words that we've been told throughout the run of the story, from the drill sergeant, from the gunnery sergeant, from the secretary general.
Nobody in space can hear you scream unless it's
a battle cry. But he dismantles all of those and says, these are words to motivate you to join us. Now that you're here, you need to know what the true word is. It is life. It is to live. We are here to live. That's
the one thing that's going to matter to you.
All of that other jargon is, he says it without saying it, but propaganda. It is here to indoctrinate you into being a part of this. And now we don't need to have that enforced.
You are stuck here.
You need to live. It is about being alive. And I loved that scene as well where he threw the table. And another thing that I thought was great about him throwing the table was he doesn't do it in a fury like how the drill sergeant would do it. He does it very casually, and he just sits down, looks them in the eyes, and tells them as such, I want to look at you in your eyes when I talk to you. In comparison to
moving the stool wasn't enough.
No. He has to make his presence known. He's a wild card because at this point we have had military figure. So many that were disrespectful, what we would consider disrespectful or inhumane or flippant towards our main crew. like when they had the planning of the attack and our group is at point A and West stands up and be's a little brat about it. And that guy running that meeting, he's all the way in the distance. He's standing up. He's pointing at a projector and he is very offhanded about everything. And so we're at a physical distance from him. But with McQueen, he comes in close and he's very honest and personable and he's the one who has actually fought the aliens, so he knows what he's talking about.
There's a lot of meaning behind the action. It's not just there for drama. And it gives you a real clear idea of what he is like and how he's going to lead them.
I want to know, do you agree with what I'm about to say here or disagree? Which is, he is an example of a character that is minimally used in a pilot, but you get the knowledge that he will become important in the series and you buy it.
Yeah.
Because he's minimally used, but the way he's executed is effective.
Yeah.
You understand his character, you understand the dynamic he'll play with them, you know that he's not going to tolerate their bullshit, but he will back them up if they do fly off the handle like they did here. He's a good dude is the vibe you get from him, but he's got a darkness to him as well. I mean, he's physically scarred from the fight, and he's from the Angry Angels who are assholes, and he's a tank, so he obviously has some of that angst as well that we saw with Cooper because they're angsty boys.
The angsty. I agree.
I'm looking forward to seeing him on the watch through, if I'm honest, because that actor seems like out of everybody, he seems to know who the character is the most. Even though he's in very little of this, he just has that, again, gravitas. He has that voice, that presence, that energy. It is, he's a magnificent performance here. And again, minimal use in a long pilot.
So Shane
Vanson. So what did you think of her?
Well, apparently I can't remember her name properly, even though they do say it a lot.
So not a fan.
Like, I am just, I know, a bit dubious because, you know, we're watching Battlestar Galactica.
At the same time, yeah.
At the same time. And I don't enjoy the kind of characters that Shane and Starbuck often are.
Military women?
Yeah, but I don't know how to narrow it down a little bit more. But like the way that they do military women of like, I am rejecting everything that is seen as feminine to be military. And I can't juggle both worlds. Or like, I'm going to be more like, I'm just going to act like a dude.
Did you get that from her?
A little. Because it's just like, I'm finally doing something for myself.
Yeah.
And I am joining the military and I want to be a part of the biggest, toughest crowd in the whole fucking military.
Okay. And do you find that to be more of a masculine trait than a feminine trait? I'm curious to hear that because, yeah. That didn't strike me at all as like them making her masculine in that fashion like they do with Starbuck. I completely agreed. They did the whole thing like Starbuck smoking cigars and playing poker with the boys and drinking as much as everybody else and getting into fist fights and boxing, and they do a lot of like overly, but then
they do it much more with Starbuck. But I'm saying I'm concerned that they're going to go more down that road with Shane.
And Shane is, you know, can be a guy's name too.
Yeah.
I didn't have that concern here. I thought I actually, Shane was my favorite in this pilot, if I will lay it all on the table for you.
I think she ended up being my favorite of the main crew.
She was really well defined. Her performance, I thought, was excellent for a pilot where they're still going to figure out who these characters are. Figure out who they are, what they are all about. I thought her backstory was great to have, where she's had this past trauma, and she, through that past trauma, was expected to be more caring,
and
more parental.
Dealt with that.
She hasn't dealt with that. She was expected to be the leader of her sisters and of her family, to guide through that crisis, and she didn't really want to and didn't really engage in it, but had to. And now she is a full-grown person. She's got her own autonomy, and she wants to join the military to strip that away, to become a part of a unit, rather than be the leader, rather than be the one calling the shots.
Which
but
is
through these extenuating circumstances,
with the way that she struggles with, she steps up to the plate of being a leader and then steps down. Like, she doesn't know where she's comfortable in the ranks.
Well, yeah, she is clearly the one who is going to be in the leader role, but she resents it. She feels annoyed by her character. She sees it as a character flaw, where she has had to be responsible for others. She's had responsibility thrust upon her through tragic circumstances at a young age, and now she doesn't want that. She wants to step beyond that, but how much can you step beyond your own personal, how much can you step away from your tendencies? Because it's a tendency.
Yeah.
The way she takes charge was a natural response for her rather than a conscious decision. And that is what makes her step back from it, because the whole entire reason she's joined the military here was a conscious decision to step away from her tendency to take responsibility.
I'm going to become a new person all of a sudden. I'm going to leave my past behind me, join the military, and just become one of the many.
And that's how many people go into certain realms like the Army, like the Air Force, like the Navy, that they are wanting to get away from who they are and become a part of
themselves in service.
Become a part of something bigger, something greater. And I didn't see that at all as what you're talking about when it comes to the feminine.
I'm scared that that's what they're going to do.
But I agree, it's something to be concerned about, because we've seen it be played that way so many times. And there is that kind of, as people who haven't been in the military, in any military thing, there is that kind of conception, that perception, I should say, of women just become like men when they join the Navy or the Air Force or any armed forces of that variety. Like, do you have that at all? So
because it's like it part of the military service is the standardization. And to me, the default in the armed services is masculine, is male. So a lot of the things work to transform women to be more like men. Like, the uniforms are not designed to be in a feminine shape. They are designed to fit, to be boxy a lot of the time, because it makes it less distinctive that there are different genders within, or sexes within the military service.
To talk about that a little too, another aspect I thought was great in this pilot was showing the inherent sexism of this world as well, or the objectification of women, because you have the grab ass scene, and of course Cooper, who has a thing for her, moves her so that he can grab her butt.
Wang is really disappointed that he doesn't get to grab anybody else's butt.
Right. And with the drill sergeant, he's coming at it from like, you were all meat to you're all weapons to me. You aren't people. You're worms. So he doesn't care that the guys are grabbing girls' butts and the girls are grabbing, because it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant to the point he's making. But we are shown that the point he's making is being undermined by the people like Cooper and Wang, who are wanting this cheap thrill at grabbing a lady's butt. And she just has to take it because she'll get in trouble. And I thought that was communicated great. And it was even shown a little further with the conflict between her and West throughout this too, where he's the guy and he's got that, I'm the protagonist, man. You can't take my spot from me.
Character energy.
It's like, you can't take my spot from me. I'm the handsome, I'm like the little white guy lead, and you're the lady. You can't take the spot from me. I liked how they played around with that without saying it out loud. She didn't have the scene where it's like, I'm a woman, and it's hard to be a woman in this world. They didn't do that.
No.
She still had to play it up as like, okay, this is what's happening, but I'm just going to move forward with it. She's not going to take the kiss from Cooper. She smacks him. I was like, what the fuck was that? How did that translate to kiss? And he's like, I don't know, man. I'm a little freak. I'm a little freaky deaky. But Shane was my favorite in this one. I don't know. I think it's just because she had really well-defined moments and characterful scenes that were nice. Her conversation about her backstory with Cooper I found to be really well played. I found it emotional, and I liked the little touches about her scar on her hand and how that's a constant reminder, and it was a really, really well played, quiet scene. And then we've got Cooper Hawkes. What did you think of him? Because he's kind of the most, I don't know how to say it without just saying interesting character. Like, he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's a tank.
Yes. He's very distinct in the crew because he's different. He's set up more explicitly and repeated a lot.
He doesn't want to be there.
No. But I do, like, I don't know. Am I just wanting to throw a random hypothesis out there? Which is, I wonder if the dude that said my parents died in the AI wars is going to turn out to be Shane's brother.
Yeah, maybe. The one at the beginning that tried to
hang him.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just want to throw that out there.
Rachel coming up with these theories for a show that's like 25 years old or however old.
Well, I know nothing.
You know nothing. You know nothing. That's fair.
But so with Cooper, I liked the introduction to him. The action scene came at a good point. Like, they were a bit heavy-handed with the dialogue.
I like the juxtaposition of him and West.
Yes.
Where West is going through like, oh no, me and my girlfriend won't go to space together. Boo-hoo. I believe in
They're trying
things.
to lynch me.
To I'm being murdered and the cops are bigoted towards me and arrest me and don't believe anything I have to say, and I'm treated as
I love that they kick the dude that did try and hang him out of the car. Like, you're setting him off. Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
We don't have to protect you.
They set up that he's a monster, that Cooper is a monster that's been activated and now he's in rage mode and you can't stop him, but that's not really that true from what we see of the rest of the pilot, where he gets angry and annoyed. He's just being treated as the other. I thought it was a great kind of parallel, like he's flipping of the coin of what we saw with Nathan West.
He's defending himself.
As you would. So you liked his introduction where they're slowly doling out information to you. What did you think about them peeling back his collar to show the thing on the neck?
Ooh, that's cool. That's something different. I wonder if we'll ever see that again.
But you gathered it was a belly button?
Yeah.
That's a nice piece of world building where they aren't telling you out loud what it is. You can figure that out. You go, oh, okay. Like, did you figure it out immediately, or did that kind of contextualize after getting more information about him being an in vitro?
Yeah, I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, he's branded with something. And then I was like, oh no, that like it's a growth. He's got an Audi. And I was like, oh wait, maybe it's a belly button kind of thing. And then when they said like in vitro, I was like, oh, okay. And then it was solidified as being essentially a belly button a bit later.
Yeah, so Cooper Hawks is an in vitro. He's a tank, and we find out a lot about tanks, but not too much. What we get a lot of is repeating that tanks are in vitros who were grown to be soldiers, but then there are some like Cooper who were grown too late, so they couldn't even fight in the AI wars. So there are just these people, these rejects into society who have to somehow make it, and there's bigotry towards them because...
And they're just let loose.
They're let loose into society, but there's bigotry towards them because, well, are they humans? Are they lesser than us? They were made to be weapons, and
but
weapons
they don't
only.
use the word clone.
Well, maybe they're not clones.
Because they're not exactly clones, but it was making me think of the book Never Let Me Go, which is about clones, and they don't know that they're clones exactly for a lot of their time growing up. But most of the people who are living these lives don't know what they are. They just know what life is laid out before them. Whereas it's like, you know where you came from, but you don't know what the fuck you're going to do now because you were made for the specific purpose.
Right.
And now that purpose is no longer needed. So the government who made you, like, it does feel like an army or military operation. Like, it was government funded to create these soldiers. We have no obligation to you because we don't need you anymore.
With Cooper Hawks, he is arrested for this incident at the beginning, and then he's thrown into the military as a joke, as the drill sergeant says, like, oh, a nice little joke of the judge to throw you into the military because that's what he was designed to be, and then he never got to be that, and now he does get to be that, and he hates it. I think that
he has a death wish for a good part of the pilot.
Well, yeah, it's a death wish and also just like apathetic because his apathy about and disdain for being in the military leads to the death wish nature of it. It's not as if he's just like, I hate the world and I want to die. It's more,
no, because
you threw me here. Yeah. I'm not gonna try, and I'll most likely die, and I'd rather do that than try to be a weapon.
Yes, his reaction to the potential hanging would be quite different if he just in general had a death wish as well.
So, what did you think, Cooper Hawks? He has a lot of stuff bubbling underneath. He doesn't even have that much dialogue in this. He's got a lot of world building aspects. Again, he is literally different to the other characters. The other characters don't know how to react to him or talk to him. There's people who are tense around him, people who hate him for existing. There are people who feel almost a sympathy for him, like, oh,
Shane,
you poor thing.
Makes a comment about tanks, and then it was like, oh, no, maybe
Vanessa.
It's like, not you, Cooper.
You're good, buddy.
Not you. I know you. You're fine.
You're one of the good ones.
Yeah. I liked that playfulness.
Do you think you'd be scared if you saw one?
I remember when I was a kid and saw my first AI, and they looked so human, but something inside me could just tell.
I felt that way when I saw my first in vitro. I don't mean anything by that, Coop.
Okay. Here's what I will say about Cooper. You know, I think it's a Warren Zevon song that's like, I need a truck to haul this stuff. It's like Cooper needs a truck to haul his angst.
Angst.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty boy.
and to haul his baggage. And yeah, like, he's very 90s pretty boy. And I was like, you look like you... Did you have some time in a boy band at some stage, Cooper?
Yeah, I have the same issue. He's interesting concept-wise that you have this one who is forced to be here. He is a genetically engineered creature or guy. Like, you have the what is it to be human aspect with him,
And
paired with the...
What rights does he have as an in vitro? Which it was another link to Never Let Me Go that I made.
And obviously he's paired with what is it to be human with allegories of racism and bigotry as well. So you have a great foundation to work off of, but in this, he is just so angsty. Every scene comes back to him being a little bitch.
The grave visit
to Pags.
Oh boy. That
although I like him, I like him as an idea rather than an actual character here, because they forgot about giving him a character. They gave him character.
Hopeful for him.
They gave him the framework of character. Like, he has angst. He has a personal loss happening with his autonomy no longer being around. Like, again, a lot of it is about like autonomy or lack thereof, freedom or lack thereof, free will and of that. But he's just a killjoy in a way that is off-putting here. Where you go, yes, I know you're supposed to be the killjoy in the story, but there were too many times where I rolled my eyes at his angsty bullshit, where I just go, okay, can you just get your head out of your ass? And you know that they will explore that.
Yeah.
You know that's what they're going to do, but it doesn't make...
what's going to happen with him.
But it doesn't make this journey thrilling to watch when you have him just being angsty the whole 90 minutes. You needed moments of levity and warmth from him to show us that he's a multi-dimensional character rather than like his foundation being good. You need to show us his character himself is more than just the one thing.
Go a little bit more with the scene with Pags.
Yeah, have him and Pags be teamed up more together, and that Pags brings out the humanity in this character. Yeah. So then when Pags does die, we feel even worse because now we know that anchor point in our group is gone for Hawks. And now we've got just West up in his grill. And we got our last character, Rachel. The main guy, our hero, our lead, our protagonist man, Nathan West, who is our Mr. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, innocent little snowflake man who's joined the military because he wants to get back to his girlfriend and live the dream. West is a character that I have a very complicated relationship with, and I can't wait to kind of spread that apart and dissect it as we go along, but I want to hear your takes. This is your first time round, well, technically second, but first time round with Space Above and Beyond. What did you think of Nathan West?
Fuckwit. That's the main thing. He's just a twat. And a bit of a fuckwit.
In a way that you think the show intends or not?
No, I don't think they're aware of how annoying I find him. I think we are meant to empathize with him more than I do.
Okay. Well, how do you think the show communicates that? Because I'm not too sure. I think the show wants you to see him one way and then show you what's actually underneath the character, because at the beginning they are very much playing up the aesthetics and the trappings of those 1940s and 50s Hollywood films and TV shows about
and then they're like, but we're going to do something different with him.
Right, because
But
they do have his 4 rights of in
Yeah.
vitros, and then immediately let you know, no, he's not. He's actually a piece of shit. Like, that's how his character works in this pilot is, look at this good side of Nathan West that you would see from a protagonist of one of those 1950s war shows where it's squeaky clean and pure, and then immediately we'll follow it up with, but actually he's a contradiction and an arsehole and a
Yes.
twat. And that's what I got, but you didn't get that as strongly.
Much. No, okay. Here's the thing. I think we're meant to like him at least 20%. Right? We're meant to be like, oh, like he has the potential to be a good person. But he's going against it. And how much of that is his character and how much of that is the world
Circumstance.
telling him that he should do this way and feel this way, right? I like him 1%, maybe. I'm like, actually, no, I don't think I like him at all.
Okay.
I wouldn't be sad if they were just like, no more West.
So you hate this character?
No. It's not negative like. It's not negative like. It's just a flat 0.
Is it the writing, the performance,
It's
the
the type
story?
of character. It's the character that he is. Like, just a little bit too milk toasty with a, like, angst and, like, I don't feel like the actor has a really solid idea of what the character is really like because he is juggling those different tones. And I don't think he has a hold of how to do the duality within moments. So it just feels like one and then the other. So it just feels like he doesn't really know who the character is, but not in a way where it's conveyed that Nate doesn't know who he is.
Okay. Yeah, I liked Nathan West in this pilot up until a point. There's a stretch of it where he just doesn't feel present in this. We have to tend to the other characters now. Like, we have to go to Shane, we have to go to Vanessa, we have to go to Cooper Hawkes, we have to go to McQueen, we have to da-da-da-da-da, where there's a little stretch here where I lost my focus on Nathan West.
Story, and then it's not.
Now it's the ensemble story. Yeah, I liked the character for what I perceive him to be in this. I'm not going to give away like where they go with him in the future, but like in this, it was very crystal clear to me that he was that, like you said, milquetoast character that you had in these war stories of yesteryear. The golly gee, I followed the rules, and
I'm
now
the main character.
I'm the hero of the story, but I'm just such a fucking dweeb. Like, I've watched those, like The Kane Mutiny, great film. The protagonist of that film is milquetoast, lame, boring, such a loser, such a dweeb, but the material is saying he's great. Don't you want to follow him? And yet he treats, in the Kane Mutiny, he treats his girlfriend like a piece of shit. He treats his family like garbage. He mutineers against a guy that he probably shouldn't have. But the narrative keeps telling you he's great. And the character and the actor plays it like golly gee and like all of this. And I've seen the Nathan West type where I've seen that played unironically, and I think there is a layer of dramatic irony here in this.
Yeah.
And I wish, and this is where I'm saying, like, there comes a point where, because it's too long and we're having to make this a pilot where we have to give the entire ensemble, it loses focus on the character story of Nathan West. And so I became disinterested in him, and when they visit his family, I was just thinking, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we doing this? We're wasting our time going to...
I expect them to never be relevant again.
I don't think they ever come back, but I was just thinking, we're wasting time here. Is this a half-hearted attempt to show us that Nathan West is a human because he has a family and, like, he should see them before he possibly dies, and that should be a sympathetic angle? Like you're saying, there are moments where they are trying to get you to genuinely sympathize with Nathan West, and I think that's a mistake. I think you should do that for your protagonist, but the way they do it in the pilot can be disingenuous at times because they are trying to have their cake and eat it too. They are trying to say, don't feel for Nathan West. He's a bigoted piece of shit who, when he's privileged, that's his thing. He's a privileged little prick where if things don't go his way, he acts the complete opposite of what he's presented to be. So he does not get to go in the spaceship, but he has presented himself as an equal-minded man. He's for equality. Oh, he can't go on the ship because these people that he thinks should have equality are forcing him not to be on the ship? Fuck those guys, and he's a bigot. Or, I believe in the military. I believe in the chain of command. What's that? They're not sending me on the front line to fight the baddies? Fuck the chain of command. Send me right there now, mister. What's that? You're not going to? Fine, I'll pout. And that stuff is great. I think that's great because he is unlikable. They know how to make him unlikable in ways that I find intriguing. How do you sustain this character? But they do have those moments where it's like him and him and Shane clearly have some romantic blossoming happening in some little way, even though he has a girlfriend, and you have his letter that he's written to his girlfriend that is supposed to be this device to make you like West, and there's so many moments.
I was actively annoyed when they have her reading out the letter when they're getting attacked by the aliens, and then they stop reading it. I was like, oh,
it's got to come back at the end.
It's going to be the narration at the fucking end, isn't it?
And it has the title in it.
Yeah.
So I don't actually mind his letter, but it was a device used to strengthen the relationship. It was a device.
I was like, well, this is labored.
That's it. It's labored. And I have a complex relationship with West, and the pilot kind of encapsulates it a little where it's like I like aspects and I don't like aspects. I understand you completely because when I first watched it, I hated him in this pilot. I was like, I want to spend time with anybody else. But being a fan and watcher of the things that this is aping off of, I really adored when they were doing those and blending them with sci-fi. For instance, my favorite shot in this doesn't make sense logically, no, but it makes sense in a dramatic way. Yes, which is when he's taken off the ship after trying to smuggle on there and hide himself away, and they've dragged him off, and the girlfriend breaks off the dog tags and throws it to him with the locket and all of that, and she's in the window and the ship separates from the structure, and he's struggling and he's doing like the I love you type of thing. I thought that was a brilliant scene. I thought visually it was very striking, and it evoked and homaged a lot of those kind of, I wrote corny a lot. Corny was a word I used a lot, but not in a negative sense. This was replicating those kind of corny, syrupy, sweet, melodramatic moments from those. And you've seen some of these movies and shows from the 40s and 50s. Yes. There's a lot of those. And that was a great moment of blending it with the sci-fi where literally he is seeing his girlfriend shoot into space right in front of his eyes. And I thought it was great. Like logically, it's like, no, you take him away and take him from there before it separates and da 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 da. But no, from a dramatic sense, it completely sold me on what this series is, what Nathan West is going to be.
Yeah.
He's going to be the guy who enters the military for the quote-unquote wrong reasons. And he will learn brutally that he did the wrong thing. And you get that here in minor ways, but again, they lose focus on it because they have to tend to everybody else. And he just kind of withers in the background, and then he comes back up at the end, but you kind of don't like him. You've lost that momentum of being on board and being off board for Nathan West. And this is, again, the issue of pacing and structuring of this being so long of an episode.
We did everything you told us. We followed the rules. We gave the program everything we had. These in vitros didn't train. These senators haven't sacrificed. Why should we pay for a mistake they made before we were even born? You're letting them throw away our lives. We believed in you.
Now the only thing you can believe in is each other.
The major faults of the pilot are what was the standard of the time, where it is too busy trying to sell itself on being a show rather than telling a compelling story.
Producers, by me.
Yeah, it is producers by me. It does it in a better way than its contemporaries that I've seen. Like, visually, it looks great. The camera, the direction in this was fantastic.
I didn't have any notes on that because it's just good. It's serviceable. It doesn't draw too much attention to itself a lot of the time.
This wasn't a cheap-looking pilot either, like how The Gathering is.
No.
It knows what it wants to look like. It knows the music is phenomenal. It is phenomenal, blending sci-fi, tropey music things with your synths and your theremins and sci-fi noises.
You did get super excited when they put future music on the jukebox.
Well, the future music on the jukebox was a great scene. But it also has that, again, where we're going to stick it to the Japanese type of music of the World War II, where we're going to fly our bomber planes and blah, da, 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 type of thing going on. It has that patriotic music playing, and I thought it blended all of that well. The pilot is beautifully shot, beautifully composed, and they aren't afraid to play around with how you do this, where we talk about in B5, it takes like a season or two for them to start feeling comfortable playing around with how you shoot episodes and how you use transitions and editing. Here, in the very first shot of Space Above and Beyond, they are already gung-ho with that. It's the script. It's the script being
a confidence that it has.
Yeah, the script even has confidence, but it unfortunately has to just stretch itself out.
And it's not consistent in its confidence in a lot of ways. Like, the direction of it and that, like, the, I don't know, sort of part of the script that is that direction aspect. Like what type of shots and framing and all of that sort of shit that would be in the script and from the director once they're actually like there. That feels really confident. Like, it feels like they know what they're doing with helming a show, but they don't know the crew yet.
You could tell that the people creating this know what they want to do, but they haven't figured out how to do it.
Yes. Yes.
Glenn Morgan, James Wong, they know what they want to create. They just don't know how to do it yet.
And how to do it within the constraints of TV at the time.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we know what we want, but how do we make it palatable?
Yeah, and how do we fit it into a script structure? Because ideas are ideas. They float and they don't have any structure to them. You may go, I want this to happen, I want this type of character, I want this type of thing, but then you actually have to import those into the framework and the necessities of how a television script is made. And this is another aspect of, this is from the 1990s, is trying to do things that aren't as common, is trying to be a sci-fi war story where we're following the soldiers rather than the commanders. We're not on the Starship Enterprise. We're not on Babylon 5 where we're following the movers and shakers of war. We're following the grunts. We're following the people who are being...
The gropos.
We're following the gropos from Babylon 5. We're following the people who are the instruments of the command rather than the command itself. And that is difficult to tell in a story in this time period as well, where we as an audience are so conditioned of thinking that we shouldn't be following these guys. We should be following the brass. We should be following those people in the control room making the decisions.
The angels.
Yeah.
Like, typically, like, they would be the ones that we would be following, but they get entirely fucked up instead.
Because they're assholes.
Yeah. But it's just like, oh, yeah, you think that it's going to be about the angels, whatever, the angry angels.
Angry angels, but it's not going to be.
No, we are with more the grounded characters.
Right, we're with the losers.
Yeah.
We're with the misfits.
Yeah.
I want to, just before we wrap things up, talk about the little touches, the little sci-fi touches, the little implementations of letting us know this is in the future and a different world to ours, the background details or the world building things that we liked or stood out.
The flat screen TV.
They got a flat screen TV right. They got it right. It was a flat screen TV. It was in a 16:9. It was. They got it. They got it. They didn't make it a square. They didn't make it a cube. They didn't make it tiny.
No, it's just flat against the wall, and it's almost as big as a wall, and it's like, yes.
It's just a bit
and
bigger
it's a
than my
TV,
TV,
not a projector.
Right, they did
Because
it.
they do some, like, holographic projection stuff, but not for the TV. And it's just like, yeah.
Well, you reacted within the first scene to a nice piece of set design to tell us about how the Vesta colony works. Do you remember?
Nope.
The clock.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I got excited. It's a 30-hour day, so they have a 15-hour clock that's like...
Yeah. And it's shaped differently, so it could... I thought that was a neat touch, and you did too. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, okay,
It just
sure.
passes along. It doesn't stop. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't contribute anything to the plot. It's just there because it's a detail and it makes fucking sense.
Yeah, there's other little things like the future music. They are in a bar. They have the jukebox in the background, and somebody plays the jukebox, and instead of playing jazz or rock and roll or blues or whatever, it plays future music that we haven't heard. This is like some weird synthy...
But they clearly know it.
That they all clearly know, and it's just... And they don't make a big point out of it. Like, the guy plays it, and you go, oh, is this diegetic or non-diegetic? But no, it's being played in the scene, and some characters are bobbing their head to it, but no one's saying, I love this blah, blah, blah future band. No, it's just a little quiet detail. I don't think I've really seen that.
The Pink Floyd scene plays very differently.
The Pink Floyd scene plays very differently, but I don't think I've seen that as much before, where you actually have future music.
It feels very novel.
It was very, very clever, and they fight each other, and they have an old-fashioned barroom brawl, and they're beating each other up, and then they all stop because Bill Hunter, the Australian actor, because this was filmed in Australia, so you have a lot of Australian actors, and the Hammerhead ships were built here, and so you have a lot of Australian stuff as well, which was neat. We could notice some vegetation and kind of landscapes, being like, that's Australian.
Yeah.
Like Nathan West's house felt very Australian for some reason.
Yeah, like just the way
the fact that it had a big water tank was also another
the big
noticeable
water
point.
tank, but also the way that it's built around the hill.
Yes,
feels very Aussie. The way that like there's kind of like that second
the railings as well for
like
very Aussie.
The second level is the main living area, but there's that story that's sort of underneath, but is technically ground level as well. Like we both know of a lot of houses in our hometowns that are built like that.
Yeah. But there's numerous things throughout this. There's the little comedic touches, such as when they are coming to the boot camp and everybody's sweating because it's hot. And then when they're in space, they're sweating because the spaceships are hot. I like seeing our characters and the actors having a physical reaction to the world. It makes it feel more lived in rather than like everybody's happy-go-lucky looking normal. There's sweat, there's humidity in the air. There's just, it's thick and it's rife with tension as well. You have
the stress.
You have sunglasses guy.
Yes.
The black guy who gets off the bus and he's wearing sunglasses and they yell at him for wearing sunglasses and he's like, oh, you like my sunnies? Yeah, they're pretty great. You like my sunglasses? Awesome. And then they rip them off his face and you notice the detail. Do you want to talk about the detail of him in the boot camp scene for the remainder of it? You noticed him in the background. They don't point it out. They don't have the camera go right to his face. You just see him in the background and you saw this.
Yeah, he's squinting when they're in the lineup.
Because he's like, well, you can't handle not having his sunnies on.
Yeah.
And we keep seeing him throughout the pilot. He's just like in the background and he's just in shots. It's like, hey, look, it's sunglasses guy. And he never gets them back. He never gets to wear sunglasses again.
He never gets a name.
He did get a name. It's written down somewhere and I did hear it, but he was Sunny's guy. Sunglasses guy. I love sunglasses guy. That was a great touch. What did you think about... we've got our sci-fi things that people care about, like costumes, spaceships, weapons, the aliens themselves. Give me a rundown of your general kind of feelings towards those. As you know, this is a pilot, so some of these things will change and some of them won't. What was your overall feel of, your costumes, your spaceships, your aliens, your sci-fi things that are saying, this is what our show is and why it's different to the other shows?
So I guess I'm going to go with an overall sort of thematic thing about the aliens, which is the way that they use, I guess, sort of angles to describe the aliens and to give a sense of them of being very inorganic. Like the way that you don't see what they're like underneath. Like when you get that shot of the gills, it's like, wait, is this a helmet that the alien is wearing or is it its head and it's just evolved to be able to like travel in space? And the design of the ships being very angular.
And it looked fleshy on the inside, but we couldn't see because of the lighting was so like moody and dark, and it was so alien.
Yes,
I agree. Like they've got these striking proportions and designs to them. I like their ships, like their little pincers. They look like little pincers. I like them. They're cool. I like those aliens. They're fun. I love the armor. They know how to shoot them well with lighting and camera angles and like shadows where you don't see too much to make it look silly, but you have enough to make it go, it is a physical, intangible thing where you get an understanding of what they look like, what their shape is, what their proportions are, how big they are compared to humans.
Not skimping out.
They're not pussying out, but they aren't shining the spotlight on it so that you can see the cracks of it, the wrinkles, the limitations of the budget. What about your overall other things of this, the spaceships, your uniforms?
Yeah, I like it.
They call them planes.
Yes.
Do you like that? Is that corny or no?
Corny in a nice way.
Yeah, that they call their spaceships planes. I wrestle with it when I see Ali Ermi call them planes, and I'm like, I get it. I mean, a part of me does wonder why we call them spaceships when they are also very more, like a lot of time more reminiscent of planes in space. But just something about hearing them call them planes, a little part of me squints and goes, did we need to do that? Spaceships?
It's a choice. I just went along with it.
It makes it different because they're always called spaceships. These are now planes. They're little fighter planes. They're hammerheads. But you like the look of them?
I didn't dwell too much on it, really. I was more interested in the planes when we got that, not exactly montage, but I don't know what to call it. That kind of part of that sequence where it's like, what did they paint?
Oh, yeah.
This? That was the most interested I got in them.
I like that they have a very clear aesthetic for what Earth technology is like, where Nathan West's breathing apparatus that he had earlier in the thing has this kind of swoop at the back, and they have these vents that move like the gills that the aliens have. And then we see similar kind of shapes and designs for their breathing apparatuses on their military outfits when they're on Mars, and that they have these kind of similar shapes and color schemes and metals and stuff on the actual spaceships. It has a uniform look to it where you go, that is Earth's look.
Yes.
I've always struggled with the helmets, because I always go, couldn't you make the helmets look a little less cheap? But
it does feel like they bought it from army surplus or something like
but
that,
they look
and then modified it a bit.
They look like props rather than like physical helmets, and that's the thing too. Even if they are real helmets, there's a difference between having a thing in the real world and a thing on camera, where a thing on camera can look fake, and they always look fake. They get better at the end when they paint them and they have all of the individual styles for the helmets. Then they look less kind of crappy, but that's just kind of it. Any other world building touches or aesthetics or things that leaped out to you here about Space Above and Beyond?
I do want to note that there were a number of lines where I was like, ooh, I really like that. I did quite enjoy like his little speech about like, the only word that matters now is life.
Oh, McQueen.
And your life from McQueen. But also the drill sergeant's line, from now on the only easy day is yesterday.
I mean, you get Arlie Ermy, who's in this, to play a drill sergeant, and
we have neglected him.
He is perfect. It's Arlie Ermy. He was this guy. And so every line you give him is turned into gold because he just embodies it so much. Oh, talking about McQueen, I really like that sentiment he gave where what we're going to teach the aliens is payback's a bitch. I really like that. He delivers it with absolute ease and grace. This is filled to the brim with some really decent lines as well. Like, there's some corniness, like the Pink Floyd, where they think the Ramones are Pink Floyd, but I like how it works its way back into the plot. Like, it came across as like a little gag, but then it was a nice moment for...
It came back.
It was a nice moment for Cooper, because that was Pags, right, who said they were the Pink Floyd. And it's like he took that as like a little thing to remember Pags by, and then he plays it when they are finally going to get the aliens back. And you play the Blitzkrieg bop, it's a bop. That song slaps, and it
does work for you.
I love the comedy of everybody's reaction back on the other ship, where they're like, "What the fuck is playing right now?
Like, oh, what is this shit?
Why is this happening?" Why is this happening? But there's many great lines. Like, there's this one moment early on in that conversation with the guy who's not going to let West on the ship, or his girlfriend on the ship, where it is politics is now. I liked that, where these are the decisions of politicians and they want this now. They don't care about the future. No. They're for themselves, which that was a subtle moment of telling you that, guys, politics will exist in this show. Just tells you that, with having the Secretary General played by
we
Bill
will
Hunter.
Feel the consequences of policy and politics.
And it makes you question, how much is that going to impact narratives and characters in the future if we keep this series going?
Mm-hmm.
Like how Babylon 5 does in its pilot movie, where Sinclair has to call back and the senators are not helpful. That's like a one-off scene in that, but it tells you that politics is going to be of importance, and it did it here.
Informative. It's very informative about the world.
And that's something they didn't beat you over the head with. They didn't have scenes where it's like, let me tell you, Michael Burnham, about how politics gets in the way of exploration. They didn't have that kind of bullshit. Right, yeah. Groan. I don't have much else to say about it. It was just, it was messy. It could have been tightened up. Reduce this by 30 minutes and we would have had...
Is it a yum or a yum yum?
Yeah. I'm going to give it a very light Yum Yum.
Yum Yum.
It went down easier for me than on previous watches.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would happen. Like,
And it's well made. Like, this is a classic example of direction lifting up the scripting problems.
It's so close to me giving it a pass and being like, you know what, like, it's not great, but it's not bad, so it's a yum yum. But I'm going to be a bit more honest and give it a yum. Yum. Because I think there does have room for growth on rewatches. There is a lot of good stuff here, but I do think that there are a lot of changes that I think would greatly improve it.
Like a 45-minute runtime. Did it sell you on the series, though? Would you want to watch more?
Not entirely. I'm like, here's the thing. I know that it failed, because if it did that job, I would have watched it with you for the first time almost 10 years ago. Wouldn't I?
Probably.
Because that's why you did it. You showed me the pilot to try and make me interested, and I didn't give a shit, so you watched it on your own.
But maybe you weren't ready. But maybe now you're ready. But are you saying that it didn't sell you?
It made me interested, but it didn't sell me.
Okay, that's fair. I understand. It didn't sell me fully either, honestly. And again, I think this is one of the weaker episodes or weaker entries of this series. And this is a short-lived series. I will ask, up top, is a part of your disconnection from it impacted knowing that it's cancelled? That it does not have an ending? Because you knew that when I told you back then, and you knew that now. Does that weigh in at all, or is it just the quality of this pilot doesn't really sell it? Because I've met people who are like...
consciously. No, like, I'm like, yeah, it's a thing. I don't have that much of... Compared to you, I don't get hung up on that as much. I will watch seasons of shows or series that I know that get cancelled and just enjoy them for what's there.
That's why you can watch Firefly more than I ever can.
Yeah, and then there's
because a part of me is like, I can't enjoy Firefly because it's like it's not a fully fleshed out thing.
I think it's called Hellcats or something like that, which is a one series show that I have a very soft place in my heart for, even though it is utter fucking trash and it was cancelled. And I still think back on that show, even though I can't remember the name, confidently right now.
So we'll cover that.
Oh yeah,
after
it was
this.
fucking. It was fucking trash, and I fucking loved it.
You want to tell us what we'll be looking at next time on Space Above and Beyond?
There will be a lot of new shows coming to television this fall, but one will blow everything else away.
Let's go.
Space Above and Beyond, coming this fall to Fox.
The farthest man from home. When the USS Baratage passes close to the planet where the Earth colonists were attacked, West goes AWOL and flies down to the planet with hope that his girlfriend Kylan somehow survived.
Well, Rachel, sounds like your favorite plot line ever. West being a prick to get his girlfriend back. I mean, wouldn't you want me to be a prick to get you back? Relatable? Relatable? Hey, if it was us, who would you want to be left behind? Me or you? Huh?
Okay.
If we had a rocket ship out of here and they could only fit one of us,
you know what?
Who would you want? Me or you to go up?
Okay. I knew immediately that whoever was on that ship is gonna fucking die, right? Like, you know. You know.
So it's me then.
So, yeah. I would send you.
Guys, that's marriage for you. That's marriage for you.
But I would go looking for you still. I would go looking for you.
Thank you. But that's all we've got. Space Above and Beyond. We have cracked this open. We've talked about it over the pod many a times. We brought it up. Sick of bringing it up. Let's give it a watch. Let's get Rachel to watch this. If you have watched it yourself or joining us for the first time, let us know your thoughts on Space Above and Beyond. Comment to us, hit us up anywhere you feel. All of the stuff is in the description, as is the usual thing. So please, hit us up with any of that, as well as just making sure to give the show a watch itself. It's available a few different places. I think that not enough people.
I know, Ryan, you want everybody to watch this. So give it a shot. Give Space Above and Beyond just a fair crack. Give it a fair crack.
Fair crack of the whip, mate. That's very Aussie for you. That is because we watched Space Above and Beyond, which had a lot of Australian actors in it.
Yes.
Like Bill Hunter, famous Australian actor, as basically the president of Earth. He was Secretary General. But that is all. How do we end this? Space Above and Beyond, we usually have a little thing for everybody, every other show.
Yeah.
How do we end this? I mean, I would say, is it appropriate to end every episode with like a toast to Pags or something where we're like, everybody, calm down. Pags, God bless.
Here's to Pags.